Hey guys, let's get that sound check done real quick. You guys know I got a special guest. You know Joel Schaefer, Perceiver. He's been riding with Archaix from the beginning. He's an OG. Just let me know. Audio's good. Thank you very much. I'm going to go, without further ado, you guys know who he is. How you doing, Joel?
Good, Jason. Thanks for the invite, man. So good to be with you, brother.
Yeah, your audio is really good. If there's going to be any Wi-Fi issues, they're probably going to be on my end.
Cool.
But that's okay.
Man.
It's a beautiful blue sky, cloudless day over Willis, Texas. And it seems to be the days when there are no clouds in the sky that we have Wi-Fi issues.
Whoa, interesting.
Imagine that.
Right? Yeah, they finally left us alone here in Montana. They've been spraying the skies, creating their little clouds, but they stopped doing it for whatever reason the last few days.
The chemtrailing was really bad, 2 and 3 days before the eclipse. Over Texas, it seems like chemtrailing has stopped since April 8th.
Wow. Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm just speaking from my limited perspective right here in this Central East Texas.
Yeah, no, I remember I get up really early and I hang out in the sun and kind of try to greet the morning, and I use caffeine and cannabis and go into like an altered state. But I'm always paying attention and looking at what's going on because I love the sun and the blue sky, and it's just I get quite pissed when I have a bluebird morning and then they fucking bomb it, and it's just goes.
Man. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that sucks.
But it is what it is. Part of the story, right? We don't have to be at odds with it.
Yeah. Look, we got some comments in the section. Several people talking about they stopped chemtrailing in Vegas,
wow,
Florida, Canada, Alberta, Colorado. Man, this is the Toltec guy. Somebody in the asking if you're the Toltec guy. Listen.
Yep.
Joel's an expert on shamanism, basically the Toltec version. And Joel and I did a video called Toltec to High Tech, Who Really Are the Elite? We did it almost 2 years ago, and it's the most popular Archaix video of all time. I think it's got like 167,000, 168,000 views.
That's badass, man. It was a great talk. That was really mind-blowing what you brought to the concept around the villain and who really are these people and how does this all work, because it's just a deep dive into like what sorcery is to me. Like these are sorcerers that are controlling our reality, and I'm fascinated with sorcery. So I do enjoy trying to understand where they're coming from or what kind of power they're utilizing or tapping into in order to, or how they got brought into it, whether they are corrupted at a young age or these family lines. Like it just blows my mind. So I appreciate your research because you're pushing away all the nonsense that gets brought in around how this all works. And by your cross-referencing, being willing to put in all that time, it's forcing people.
I agree. That's all I'm trying to do is trying to eliminate the nonsense from the field.
Right.
So I do kind of get a lot of pushback, which is why I'm wearing my new shirt. Haters over haters.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. That's a good one.
Anytime you're doing good in the field, there's going to be pushback.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you being on the front line, taking the hits. There's not everybody could handle it energetically and sleep well. People are really affected by stuff like that, and you've probably from jail or whatever, you figured out how to be more resilient than most.
Oh, you gotta have in this life, you gotta have thick skin.
Yeah,
just gotta have thick skin. That's all it is.
Totally.
I mean, it's I don't really think much about it. I take my jabs too. I just released a video yesterday. Just simply because this beautiful woman sent me a song that she wrote for Archaix.
Oh man!
And she sent it. The video that I dropped yesterday was not planned. I had no intention of doing that video. I woke up yesterday thinking I wasn't even going to do anything for Archaix at all. I was busy doing other stuff, and I opened up an email, and there was a song in there. It was just a song, and this lady, something Red Sky. I put her name in the deal, and then we exchanged emails after I posted it on YouTube. But she sent me the song about a shar is not a day but a year, and I thought, well, this is a really nice little jingle. So I went to looking up all my shar data, and I couldn't fit it all, so I cherry picked what I wanted to put in the video. And I said, well, hell, this is relevant to Billy Carson, so I put his face in there a few times. And I just finished one of the most awful books I've ever read in my life. Jay Dreamers wrote a book, and it sucks. And I have no problem doing a book review on it if my community wants one. But I'm not cool with books that are basically copy and paste from other sources, and you put them together as if this is your research. And it's not. I'm not cool with that. I call it out on Billy Carson is a copy and paste artist. So I'm about to do my third book review on his stuff, but there's not a lot to review in this other book. His latest book about holographic reality is all ChatGPT copy and paste. There's no real Billy Carson anywhere in here. And the reason I know is because it's good grammar. Real good grammar in this book. I know it's not Billy Carson. Anybody can write a book using ChatGPT. It's so easy. And it's so soulless. When you use an open AI to write a book, it's soulless. When you read it, it's like, damn, I'm reading like a mainstream media version of the topic. There's no commentary here. It's just rote facts.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah, we're in interesting times, man. That's going to be a big factor here moving forward. Is people are going to become more and more, hooked up to this system because it just makes it more accessible through stuff like that. People start digesting and consuming it and becoming less authentic.
It's really no big deal, man. It's authenticity. Authenticity comes from personal experience.
Yeah,
and that's where it comes from. And
Totally.
The reason I have so much pushback, like Old World Florida, a lot of people know, and I encourage people to go watch it to see what a shill video is. I don't care about you talking about my criminal history or twisting the facts and not knowing exactly what you're talking about. I don't care about none of that, man. But Old World Florida has done nothing but tear himself down. He's attacked about 4 people that he's had as guests on his channel. It doesn't make any sense. So when you look into who he is, you find out, oh damn, here he is right here selling drugs on high school campuses and stuff, man. He's a convicted felon. I said, wow, Jay Dreamer's a convicted felon. Billy Carson, a convicted felon. Imagine that. Why are all these convicted felons so offended with me? Right. Is it because of my success? The reason I say this is because most people who don't know me don't even know, Joel, that I have been in publishing and as a professional author since 2004.
Yeah.
I didn't even start my YouTube. YouTube didn't even take off for me until 2020.
Right.
I think I did one video in 2019, and then in 2020 I started taking it seriously and doing some more videos after my motorcycle accident. But I've been in the research, writing, publishing, public dissertations game for a very long time. So it's this really brings with it a level of authenticity people can resonate with. This is why people resonate with you. They realize, okay, this guy's here is not here to BS me in any way. He's just telling me authentically, basically what he's experienced in the lucid dreaming and the shamanism. You bring something to the table I can never bring because I have this like synaptic fail-safe in me. I have this intrinsic fear. That's why I can't drink to the point of getting a buzz. That's why I can't do drugs, period. I can't even do the things that those simplified stuff that people want to do because I have this fear that altering my mind is going to take me somewhere I don't want to go. So I've always protected my greatest asset, which is my cognition. So I can't do drugs, can't do any of that. So I envy those of you like that have done the entheogens. I've gotten friends that have told me, it said, Jason, man, I listen to your videos after I'm doing shrooms, and bro, I see the construct, everything you're saying. When you're talking about the Great Pyramid and breaking it down in 138 and multiple dimensions of arithmetic, bro, I don't see the numbers. I see the construct. It's all there. You got to do these shrooms, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, man, I'm going to take your word for it, man.
Yes. That's so cool, man. Yeah, dude, it is. It's I live in that state a little bit. Like it's like I'm microdosed all the time now. And I'm really resonate with when you're speaking. It moves my perception to a place where I can really tap into it, not just with the mind, but like on a more complete spectrum. Like I feel it, I resonate with certain information out there, and I can tell when it's going to be helpful in my journey or if it's to be discarded. Like I'm very discreet. I have a lot of discretion about what I give my attention to. So I'm very, very selective with people and with information. And so to me, what you're doing is you're moving people's perception, and it's good that you have that fail safe and that you don't go get kind of, because you can get waylaid out there. You can get spun out and tripped out and other things. And so you're a man on a mission. And if you were to go into these other places, you might not be able to, you wouldn't have the same tenacity. You would start to focus in a different direction. It would be more almost like a personal spiritual thing. But you did so much of that in jail just by learning how to take care of yourself energetically and not get drained, that you proved to be this really a force to be reckoned with. So I think we all have different missions, and it's cool that we have totally different missions, but we can still talk and kind of compare notes around dream realities versus simulations and how they might, maybe complement each other or even overlay.
Yeah, you're more experienced with the ayahuasca, right?
No, I'm avoided that one. I'm not interested.
Oh, okay, all right.
But just psilocybin mostly because I feel really called to that spirit. So I work with it really kind of aggressively at times in my life, where I learned to live in an altered state all the time. I trained with shamans, and you'll like take quite a bit of mushrooms for a long period of time, and with a lot of cannabis. And then you stop the cannabis and you just do a lot of mushrooms and you intensify it. And then you stop everything all at once. And just fasting, purification, no foods. And you move that the mushroom altered state will stay with you. And I don't recommend that people do this because you can end up in a mental ward if you don't know what you're doing. I was doing this with people that knew what they were doing, and they helped me to reach states of awareness that they were in. And now I do the same for others, right? So it's something you want to do slow and careful, and you don't even need the mushrooms anymore. The Toltecs, what I discovered eventually was the Toltecs have a system that allows you, that will place you in these altered states without any drugs at all. You do very strange movements that are kind of like a shamanic dance that generate all this energy. And if you keep doing them in large groups, these really altered states come over you, and you can do lucid dreaming that night, and the next day it sort of builds up, depending on how much time and interest people put into it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I've got associates, close friends that do mushrooms.
Yeah,
I don't really ask a lot of questions. Sometimes they come in these little boxes and they're already dehydrated. And you know what? The drug culture. Or I don't know, some of them might get offended by calling mushrooms drugs and all. I get all that. It's not a culture that I've ever been in. I've been around it. I'm in the biker culture. I know people pushing different things. It's not my thing, and they know it's not my thing. But I love my blended whiskeys and bourbons. But I don't even drink to get a buzz. I drink a shot socially when I got company or something. But other than that, I don't engage. It's I get this natural euphoria that comes over me when I can tune the whole world out. And I can do this frequently when I'm alone, when I'm left to my own devices. This was a problem for me when I was a child because my mother was a disciplinarian. And I've told you guys in my community a lot about my mother. Mm-hmm. Southern Baptist, staunch, allied to God type personality. And she really believed in any trespass merits punishment. This is what her belief is, and I spent most of my youth being punished for stuff because I was always pushing the envelope. And but one thing that frustrated my mother a lot that my dad actually found amusing. He's probably in the chat right now. But one thing my dad always found amusing was that when I was sent to my room or when I was sequestered and told to sit in a corner, I wasn't not doing something. I could literally create a game just looking at the dots on the wall in the wallpaper or whatever. I could just do something with whatever variables were put in front of me, and I could entertain myself and totally forget I was even there. By virtue of imagination, I could cope with the many punishments. I could do that. And what's crazy is the same thing happened in prison. And when I learned to tune the world out, I could put paper and pen in front of me, come up with concepts, look at just different pieces of information, and if there was anything to be connected between disparate pieces of data, my mind would just put it together, and then I would have a pattern. Somewhere I was a creature of pattern recognition, so I would get this euphoria that people describe on mushrooms. I used to get it all the time, and do you remember my video, Loki Laughed at Me, when I was driving the van? I describe what I go through when I'm driving the van, and because that's what got my channel popular, the van vlogs. When people realized that this information was coming from the heart, it wasn't coming from me reading a screen or a script. Because I'm driving, and I'm driving down the road, and I'm giving these historical, and I'm giving these isometric projection dissertations, and it's because it's like zombie driving. It's when you're driving and all of a sudden something just takes over you, and subconsciously you're steering. You're not hitting other traffic. You're steady going the road. 15 minutes later, you have been somewhere else. Your body has been driving that van, but mentally, emotionally, you have traveled, and you have come back with a concept, with a feeling, with some type of intuitive spark that changes the rest of your day. This is what happened to me in prison. I didn't need drugs. I found that inner place, and most of my research was done in that zone. It was just in that zone, reading all this information, knowing that somehow all this mattered. So somehow all this was going somewhere. It just took decades for me to realize what that direction was.
Wow, that's amazing, dude. It's such a good explanation. Toltecs talk about the energy field and that we have all this stuff in our field that keeps us unable to receive new information. So somehow you figured out how to empty your field and make it pure so that you could be a receiver of this guidance. And that's, like if you smoke DMT and look in the mirror and you're really like somebody who's really into like cannabis and football and like conspiracy theories, you'll look in the mirror and you'll see symbology all over you that represents like a cannabis leaf or like the Seattle Seahawks or something will be representing your interest because we have all this information we put into our field, and shamans can see that stuff. They can see what your interests are. They can see what's distracting you. And so if you could erase all that stuff and not get spun out by the world, you can become something really, you can have experiences that are outside of what most people encounter with perception. And that's, I think, you've channeled that gift and utilized it in a very specific direction. And it's opened it's helped other people to understand how to deal with their informed field in the way that you did it. And other people are learning it the way I'm doing it too. There's just there's opportunities to get really clear and have these moments of clarity. I drive a lot as well, and the same thing happens to me. Or I listen to music to the point that it moves me so deep that I'm just like, there's no vehicle. I'm like in this other realm, but I know how to make sure I'm safe. Like I don't recommend this necessarily, but I go into other worlds while I'm driving, and I can handle it because I can multitask on that level. But like my eyes will barely be open. I'm drawing sunlight into my eyes. Everything's kind of psychedelic, but my body knows what to pay attention to and what not. So I can, if I need to, I can pop out and be more alert. But really it's like this rebooting. I'm healing myself through silence, and music and drive happen to be the thing that do it for me, or one of many things.
I get that.
Yeah,
so you had some fun in Music and Sky, huh?
Man, it was really cool. Got to meet so many people that I've been doing, talks with online, and really powerful discussions. And yeah, Dr. Berlando, such a amazing man. And
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, dude.
You can feel his energy. You can feel his energy. It's good.
Yeah, I was so thankful for his message, and a lot of people really appreciated that. And I did 2 talks, and they really went well. People really are willing to consider these things that I talk about, and it's the truth community is like less fearful and more expansive and creative. You know, it's starting to really. I credit like Dr. Kelly Brogan and people who are in the that have a lot of people are talking about how to come out of the rabbit holes that have entrapped us, because a lot of people get in there and it's just doom, you know, or it's like unrealistic hope that, oh, you know, JFK Jr. is going to save the world, or all these different traps that people are in. And it's just so disempowering to spend your life in fear or falsity. So seeing a lot of truther communities transition out of like this need to protest and stop the chemtrails. There was some of that. There was a woman there saying, we need to protest, we need to stop the chemtrails. And I just see that as trying to get people's energy and attention away from the inner work. Because the things that are going to go on in this world are not about us protesting or not. You know, and it's about like what you teach is this capacity to create, you know, your own reality tunnel so that you're not being sucked into the collective.
I agree. I'm not. People. A lot of people don't resonate with that. But from the beginning of my channel, you know, I've been telling people that the real reason for psychoses, the real reason for these mental breakdowns, for the desperation people feel, this destitute feeling people have of helplessness, the real core cause of all that is because somewhere down the line, you've convinced yourself that you're here to save the world.
Yep.
And you're not.
Yep.
We're just passing through. Like that song yesterday that was posted on Archaix. Just passing through.
Yes, sir.
When you adopt the attitude that you're here just passing through, you apply the powerful message of the prodigal son, of the parable of Jesus, that you're the prodigal son and you're just passing through. That means this is not home. You're not here to save this construct, and you are specifically placed here to make mistakes. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's everything here is just the opposite, man. I agree with you, man. It's all about information's in the field.
Yeah.
So what these entheogens do, this ayahuasca, these mind-altering drugs, even the illegal narcotics, what these do often is they remove the intellectual objectivity. I remain objective, and what I mean by that is I can intellectually engage with the construct by understanding that it has a mathematical foundation. I don't need to perceive it. I can intellectually map it out. I understand what I'm in.
Yes.
But these mind-altering drugs, they remove that objectivity and they subject you to the actual wave front, the signals. You begin to perceive. You see the color ratios and what's going on around people. What's been described to me is, because I understand that everything is some type of mode of light. Light at a lower frequency becomes sound. Sound at a lower frequency becomes physical matter, but it's still the same. It's still the same thing. It's light, but it's at different bandwidths. So what a lot of these drugs do is they subject the individual, highly individualized soul to that phenomena. I can't get subjected to it because I'm only thinking about it on an intellectual plane. And on an intellectual plane, I'm armored from experiencing all that. I'm armored from it because it's objective. But when you subject yourself to those drugs, you are subjected to the phenomena of the construct itself, and it's perceived in different ways by different people. So I get it. I understand what's going on, and I really envy you guys. But I just know that it's not my place. It's not my place to indulge.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, the MK Ultra programming was through CIA utilizing LSD on the masses and studying them and seeing what would happen to their informed field. And then they sent all this messaging through the music industry to control what what you then, so you think you're being given this incredible experience, but really you're just being programmed on a deeper level, right? So there's these, it's a really dangerous thing to open ourselves up. And I think you're just protecting yourself as aware as you are, and I don't need these substances anymore. And if I were to continue to abuse them, then I might find myself in some trouble. I have to listen in each moment about what I do and not get in my mind, right? And that's where the for me the transition happens. Is you stop, you follow a great clarity and guidance, right? Rather than being in your head about what your life's supposed to look like. And that's what I sense from you, is that you talk about, you wake up and you're like, something's come over you and you feel called to research a particular subject. And then, so you're being worked with, and it's a beautiful thing to be in the presence of, because not everybody knows what that is filled with purpose, and so people are really in gratitude. And there was a lot of people wishing you had been able to be at Music in Sky, and I brought it up in my talks that I wish Jason was here, because he's really good at helping people come out of hypnosis. And, you go down a thread and you make people come to terms with something that forces them out of kind of this sedated state. It's an activating experience, right? So yeah, man, I wish you and Don could have been there. It was really, really cool to meet all these people. And I think we almost were able to do an Archaix meetup, but the schedule was kind of hippie chaotic. None of the schedules were working. The stages were always, the speakers were at the wrong times. And so we weren't able to pull it off, but there was a lot of Archaix talk. And not only there, but in Twitter Spaces. I'm in Twitter Spaces a lot. And your message is starting to get stronger and more heard. So I encourage you to join us sometime and get on these talks, because
I still don't even know what a Twitter Space is. People have been asking me about it and talking about it, but I move when it comes to tech.
Yeah,
I move very slowly, man. Once I understand something, I got it. I use it to its full advantage, like StreamYard. It took a while for Martin to convince me StreamYard was the way to go. Now I won't do anything but StreamYard.
Nice.
So, I'm kind of hard-headed like that.
I get it. I was the same way. We'll get you set up eventually. You'll end up on there. Santos came on there a few months ago, and people were really thankful to hear him again, and sounded like he was doing better. Yeah, so you never know. It'd be cool to have you, Santos. Like, there's some pretty big names in there that show up, like David Icke. And you can raise your hand and ask David Icke a question, and then everybody gets to hear you guys talk. And then Robert Seifer's in there a lot, and so it's just, there's so many different, but there's also Sasha Stone, and he's talking about aliens mining the rings of Saturn and how it has to do with Fukushima and everything's
okay, man. That's just the perfect reason for me not to be in Twitter Space, because I'm telling you, Joel, I can't keep my mouth shut.
Yeah,
Sasha Stone will get the business if I'm in the same room with him and he's talking about that shit.
I know.
Yeah, I'm just not. You already know me. My character type. Maybe Spaces is not for me.
Yeah, me and Peter have talked about how can we create spaces that Jason doesn't get pissed and leave. Because there's a lot of trolls and it's really hard to monitor. But so maybe it won't happen. But regardless, me and others are representing the things you're talking about in there, and it's forcing people to just it's hard to help to pull. Religion is the hardest thing to extract people from. For Toltecs, if you're an apprentice to a shaman, the hardest part is for them to get this religious programming out of you. Even if it's turned into spirituality, it still has religious programming inside of you. They just transfer their perception of spirituality into a religious version. And it's very limiting as far as having an expansive perception of what's possible.
Yeah.
And then the pseudoscience is the next one, right? All these people that are defending. So it's like science and religion are the things that keep people hypnotized. And I think shamans do a good job at they talk cryptically and try to extract people from the fear-based mindset of the scientific limitation, because scientists are mostly just miserable people. They're not expansive geniuses exploring what's possible.
No, they're not. I'm not. Listen, I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
this is in no way to put myself on a pedestal, but can you guys direct me to anybody, PhD, master's, master's education of somebody who's actually out there telling truthful material? I can't. All I ever could, I come across a wall of indoctrination, and I come across a wall that is absolutely offended at my multidisciplinary approach to finding out the truth. Yeah. Because this is the core defense anybody from the scientific world has against Archaix data. They do not like the fact that it's multidisciplinary. I don't care what your position is. We can argue from a uniformitarian perspective as to why the science is wrong, or we can do it from a simulation perspective, or we can just do it from a common sense perception. As simple as that. But they don't like the fact that data can be pulled from multiple different disciplinaries to be used as evidence against them. Yep. This is why Archaix has been left alone. Mm-hmm. This is why you don't see. Let me tell you something. I'm waiting for some of these big science channels to try and take a bite out of me. Believe me, I've got all my arguments ready, because the best way in the world to argue against false paradigms is to ask questions that cannot be answered under the models that they've been taught. And I'm ready for that. I'm ready for like Professor Dave. He likes to pick on all those flat earthers and all that. Pick on Archaix. You know what I mean? Professor Dave is more than welcome to come into Archaix and try to pick this apart. I don't care. But he's pretty low on the totem pole too. But what I mean is,
Austin Whitsitt just murdered that guy in a talk, so I don't know if he'll be able to recover.
Oh, who is Austin
Whitsitt? He's the most knowledgeable dude in the realm of proving that we're not on a spinning ball.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I think you guys would have an amazing talk. He's blowing up. He's a significantly conscious, really beautiful dude. Like he's got a really clear field. So I hope he talks to you, and I hope Flat Earth Dave comes.
I've never heard of him, but Flat Earth Dave kind of already burned his bridge there in the past.
Yeah, I think he was worried about your history, and people get caught up in that shit instead of like the actual conversations, which is stupid. I think that's a not the way to go about it, right? But yeah, man, there's so many. When I think when the simulation and the flat Earth community, there's some really brilliant people in both worlds, and rather than battle, well, I mean, it is what it is, but I think the conversations will get really incredible and elaborate as we open up, and even the shamanic dreaming part of it, I think, is a really key piece to understanding the holographic projected reality. Like shamans have discovered a twin world that they can get to through silence or through power plants. They take enough medicine, you can cross over to this other place. I think it validates what you think about this place being a simulacrum, that there is not only the way that you're seeing a way out of here. I think there's other means and methods through dimensional travel that will reveal what you've discovered, but with, in a, because the fractals and the simulation pieces are all in place, but I think there might be real worlds that aren't only copies. And so I think that's our return to understanding what we really are. And I think we're much more than we've been convinced to be. That I think we're fully functional travelers that can, go to other realities. We don't need rocket ships to go to other worlds. We get to use our dreaming as a means to make those adjustments.
I get it. I want to interject with I just saw Rusty Woodpecker. He's a mod. I just wanted to let the other mods know that we just sent another volley of moderator packages out. So several moderators have already received their packages.
I did. Thank you.
Oh, you got yours?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have a lot of moderators, guys, and people who support Archaix. Not only just moderators, we cherry picked some people that have been supporting Archaix for a while, and we mailed. There's at least one book from the 1800s, sometimes two books from the 1800s in each box with Archaix merchandise and other antique books. But for those mods that haven't, you either didn't send us your mailing address or your stuff's in the mail right now. I just wanted to say that because I saw this comment.
Yeah, I'm stoked to read what you sent me, man. I take everything not as a coincidence. I get told what to tap into and what not to, and I appreciate sending that stuff over, man.
Yeah. We'll get to the predictions, guys. We're just shooting the shit right now. Hang tight.
Yeah, we're in interesting times, man. I've enjoyed the clarity you've brought around this, how ugly things can get when the right wing gets back into power, and starting to see some interesting things come forward in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, it's this world is so amazing because we just don't have to participate. It doesn't matter if 80% of the world is saying this is what's going on and they've all accepted that as a reality. It doesn't matter because on an individual level, every single one of us have a choice if we're going to participate or not. And it goes with social media. It goes with whatever's going on, whatever the latest trend is. I mean, I see a trend pop up and I'll instantly see David Icke and Robert Seifer on it. And then they're giving their commentaries on it. You already know how Twitter is. I see David Icke and Robert Seifer every single day giving people the business. As soon as Elon Musk says something that's dumb, you know what I mean? David Icke is on it. Let me tell you something. I know that Elon Musk knows who David Icke is.
Oh yeah,
because he is on his butt every single day. But we don't have to participate, and I often don't.
Yeah,
I see all that dialogue, and every once in a while, something will trigger. I'll read a David Icke post, and something will trigger. I say, wait a minute, because I've read 3 or 4 David Icke books. Like the other day, I posted on Twitter a quote that he did 20 years ago that was in a book. I had to go pull the book out and flip through it and say, yeah, that's what he said. And I quoted David Icke. And it was a pretty popular post I did on Twitter. I said, hey, guys, you guys remember this? David Icke said this 20 years ago. I do that a lot. You know, I don't know how many Robert Seifer books there are, but I've got 3 of them right here. 3 Seifer books. I did a book review on 1666. Zabbatai Levy material that he put out. It's pretty good. Now, he and I aren't colleagues, but we know of each other, and there's mutual respect. But I see him on X all the time giving people the business, especially when they're on that woke bullshit. Robert Seifer's in there. He's laying the facts, showing video links to where he corrected the misinformation. Yeah, he's in there. So it's I see that a lot. I just don't engage. I don't engage a lot because it's it affects my field.
Me too.
You know what I mean? It affects my field. I'm just human, and I've already borrowed enough trouble with my heavy criticisms of people's bullshit. You know what I mean? I've already borrowed enough trouble. I mean, I've been on Graham Hancock's butt, Randall Carlson, Jimmy Corsetti, Matt LaCroix. I've been on their asses, and you know what? They don't like it. You know, and that's cool. That's fine. But I've borrowed enough trouble, and then to equal that out, I've got 20 channels attacking me weekly. So it averages out. But to get into the social stuff that's going on popular right now, you very rarely see me engage.
Right.
If something's just exploding on social media, I don't really participate. I've already extracted myself from all political commentary now. I used to be big on Trump. I used to be big on the Patriot Pacification Program. And then I revealed all the names of the people I suspected that were Patriot pacifists, and they were actually using their social media accounts to do something for someone else, which wasn't them, which actually neutralized the largest armed force in the world, which is the American people. And after the whole January 6th Biden takeover of the United States and all that, you know what? Listen, I used to be very vocal about that. My channel has a bunch of videos about that, but I don't engage anymore. And the reason I don't engage is because now it is painfully obvious now that when I was engaging, I just didn't have all the necessary data. Right. Now that I have the data, I know that we've been a captured operation for a very long time, and all this was just a puppet show to get the last holdouts of patriots to still believe that they live in a free country when they do not. So I'm just I don't even engage in the politics no more. So that's why you've seen all that stop with me. I just don't care. Patriot pacification, I don't even care anymore. I don't even care. It's gotten ridiculous. No one will ever get me to believe that the puppet they have up there playing Joe Biden is the same as the 4 other Bidens I've seen in the last 3.5 years. You're never going to get me to believe that. No.
That's good, man. I'm glad you see that.
We're on Biden 5 right now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's so cool. Like it's so amazing to me. It's like the greatest story ever. You know, all the detours and all the distractions. And I'm the same way. I just don't have interest in the distractions. All the things that happen are like, they're like a means to attract everybody to distract them from their inner journey, I think. And or like, you know, and you brought up Robert Seifer and David Icke. Robert Seifer is going after David Icke because he believes that David Icke stole information, took his knowledge about Saturn worship and just rewrote it and produced it as his own. And so, you know, and then David Icke is still promoting heliocentric model, and Robert Seifer is as well. And they're going to Robert Seifer's at these alien conventions. And so, you know, it's just interesting the different areas of unconsciousness that people maintain. Like my teachers were really powerful people, but they went along with all the bullshit, even though they were really gifted in all these other ways. So it's just strange to see these different formulas play out and expose kind of everybody. And unless you're humble and willing to be exposed yourself, then you're going to be upholding something that's going to keep you from evolving. You're going to be trying to maintain a fixed position. And that's what I appreciate about you and others, is you're willing to go deep into it and get to the answer rather than try to convince yourself of what you wanted to be true.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've had some turnarounds.
Yeah.
I've had some turnarounds. I mean, the whole Trump deal was really upsetting to me when I realized how deep.
Yeah.
It's on the surface. It's just a Bolshevik scam all over again. And I didn't want to admit that at first. And then I go into his family history and who he is, a Drumpf, and I'm like, whoa, how come none of this was publicized? And then Ivanka, not Ivanka, his daughter. It's Ivanka.
Yeah, you're right.
But and then she just completely throws the mask off, quits dyeing her hair. You see her what she really looks like. She gets with Jared Kushner. It's no longer a secret. She joins that elite Jewish cult. Yep. And it's like, wait a minute, Donald Trump has no problem with any of this. And then I research Jared Kushner and I find out, whoa, this is a dude is a major real estate mogul. Damn, so is Trump.
That's true.
So I'm like, what's going on here? So they clear out Gaza. I mean, Gaza's cleared out. What does clearing Gaza out do? It creates real estate opportunities.
Yeah.
So I started looking at all this and you know what? I'm just going to back off. I'm done. I'm done with the Patriot pacification deal. We already know who they are. I'll never not admit that I am 100% convinced that Juan O'Savin is an agent of the Patriot Pacification Program. He and everybody who follows him and listens to him and stuff, they are deeply entrenched in a program to neutralize the Patriots of America into inactivity because they have been told to trust the plan. That's it.
I agree. Yeah, it's
100 years later, Bolsheviks all over again.
Yeah. Well, and it's so well done. The people that go down that Q rabbit hole, it's actually really well done that it can trap people forever. And they're more believe it now than ever because it was done so that when certain events did happen, it would keep making them feel like it's happening. It's really kind of just, we're always being controlled, and it's just psyops within psyops within psyops. And it goes so deep that I think reality, like you think, reality is a psyop.
Of course it is. This is the greatest psyop of all.
Yeah.
No doubt. This is 1972 isometric epicenter. The isometric epicentral year between now and 1972 was 1998. 1998 is 666 times 3. I've gone into great detail on my channel how Edgar Casey and Nostradamus both identified 1998 as the key year to understanding the unfolding of future events. And then Nostradamus even added details to that. He said that future events can be ascertained like the ripples on a pool of water. That's exactly how isometric projections are done. They're palindromes. Yeah. And I had on my channel in my earlier videos, I've given many chart dissertations explaining. I did Trump's life. And if anybody would have been following Trump's life and knowing about isometric projections back then, they would have been able to predict in 2016 he was going to be president based off everything he had said the years before, and counting up to 1998 and then counting before 1998 to the parallel years. Every bit of it tells a story. And it's because we're in a construct, not in a real reality. Trump's life was highly prophetic of what he became. So the reason I'm getting into this is from an intellectual standpoint, we see these as calendrical palindromes. Yeah. But I know in altered states, people have been able to predict the future as well, and they don't know how they did it. Right. They just did it in altered states. We know that Mother Shipton was capable of this. I'm not talking about the forged fake Mother Shipton prophecies that many people have put out as true. I'm talking about the core data that Mother Shipton predicted involved two great sky dragons that were going to appear 1 century after a world war. She's talking about the Phoenix and Nemesis X, which do appear 100 years after World War II. So she was dead on specific about how continents will slip under oceans, that new kingdoms will be built on former ocean beds, how after the cataclysm is over, men who are technologically advanced with all kinds of badass weapons and tools will come from underground out of the mountains and count the survivors and then bring them together to forge the next new dynasty. She said all this. Wow. Mother Shipton said all this and a lot more. Nostradamus even said more. The data index of interpreted by Mario Reading, David Ovason, Cesar Ramadi, these men were geniuses, and they interpreted these things. It's amazing. Nostradamus knew about 1902, and he specifically dated the destruction, not the whole world, but most of the infrastructure of our world, not the population. The infrastructure of our world will collapse in May of 2040. And Nostradamus is very clear, not only on what's going to happen, but even the date. He even talks about the red rain coming from the sky and the moon turning red and the sun turning black, and that 25% of the world's population will die as a result of the infrastructure collapse, not as a result of the cataclysm. The cataclysm is 6 years later with Nemesis X, which is also predicted by Nostradamus and very clearly in the book of Revelation. The reason I'm going into this is because 1972 is the isometric holographic counterpart for our year of 2024 right now. And there's some really compelling things that happened in 1972 that are relative to what we're going through right now. But one of those things that I want to talk about in 1972 has nothing to do with predicting the future. Okay. It has everything to do with my favorite book, my favorite book of all time. I read it when I was a child. I was a prolific reader before I went to prison. Before I got in trouble at 17 years old, I was already a prolific reader. My mother made sure of that. So, the book is like 1,000 pages. The book is called Watership Down. It is my favorite book of all time. And the book is written by a man in England, in the UK. And the premise of the book was that there was a colony of rabbits living in the field. I believe it's Southampton or Hamptonshire, something like that. They lived, and these rabbits could communicate like humans, and the world was a mysterious place to them, but they understood the field. And then the surrounding hills had like wolves or coyotes or whatever, some dogs, and they feared them. But Watership Down was the story of the human race in a construct. Watership Down was the story it was put out as if rabbits. And another famous story came out of the Watership Down about the rabbits. And it came later. It was called The Rats of Nim. The Rats of Nim came out in the 80s. It was even more popular. But the original book, Watership Down, was sent to 7 different publishers. Not one publisher picked up the book.
Oh, okay.
So one guy One guy heard of the book being denied by all these and said, hey, man, let me look at that. He wanted to be a publisher. He was a one-man operation, and he took a gamble. And he got that book, Watership Down, and he published it, and it became an instant sensation. Yeah, Watership Down is awesome. So Watership Down starts with just the ecology of the rabbits and how they're living in this field. The field is the whole world to them in southern England. And they're living here, and all of a sudden, I think his name is Hazel. The main character is Hazel. He's a guy. Hazel has a vision, a dream, and he becomes the prophet of the rabbits.
Yeah.
He becomes the Watership Down seer. That's what they call him in the book, the seer. Hazel sees a red rain and red rivers flooding the field, and the red liquid goes into the rabbit burrows. It chases the rabbits, and some of the rabbits drown, and other rabbits have to escape out of the other tunnels, and they have to seek high ground. And Hazel has a vision from the rabbit god that he needs to lead his people out of the lowlands, because this was a dream about something that was real and was going to happen. And the only way you're going to survive the red flood is to get to the hills. So Watership Down is about this trauma that the rabbit community experiences when they realize they're going to have to leave this world in order to survive this phenomenon. And they get out and they go to the hills, and the story is badass. I'm not giving it justice. Watership Down is awesome. But there's a tragic real life story that goes with Watership Down. And that is that very early on, even though it was denied by 7 publishers, and we all know who owns the publishing houses, it was denied by all of them. But as soon as somebody found value in it and proved them wrong, this guy named Rosenstern or something comes up, and he claims to have all the rights to Watership Down, but he didn't. And he did a movie, and the movie was a blockbuster. Watership Down movie was awesome. It's a cartoon. It's a Phoenix phenomenon is what it is. It shows the red rains and the red water rising and all that. The rabbits have to flee, get to the mountain. It's a Phoenix phenomenon video masked in the world of anthropomorphized rabbits. And this guy, something Stern, something Rosen, something, but he turns around. He's Jewish. He turns around, claims the rights that he didn't have, does a movie, and for 40 years makes all the money off this movie. And only 40 years later, in 2020, did a court finally grant the original author his due and say, yeah, we know you wrote this. After 40 years of letting this bastard man profit on Watership Down, the court finally said, yeah, we restore the rights back to the original author. And guess what? After this dude made millions,
oh my God,
the original author $100,000. I was so pissed. So pissed. Yo, man. But you know what? It's the story of the Matrix too.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's the story. It's the story of a lot of good stuff.
I love it. I'm gonna check that out, man. I remember as a kid, really young, reading a little bit, but I don't recall. So I'm stoked that you brought that up. And
man, I just have this weird knack. Listen, man.
Yeah.
I am a nerd. I will be the first to admit it. I'm a nerd. A lot of people perceive me to be a badass. I'm gonna tell you now. I can introduce you to guys in prison. I was a scrapper. But I had to be. But really, my core inner being, I'm a nerd, man. I get into board games, get into card games. I get into weird dialogue. But when it comes to books, I don't forget what I read. If it's really interesting to me, it becomes a part of me. Watership Down was one of those stories. I wanted to tell you that story because that was 1972.
Yeah.
And 1972 is what we're going to talk about right now, because we promised them some predictions before we continue this dialogue. And people have been bothering me for about 5 months on predictions videos, but I really don't have a lot new to bring to the table, so I'm just going to bring it from a different perspective this time. Because last year, 18 months ago, I'd already predicted that this was going to be the year known for knife attacks. And that has exactly happened all over the world. And that's from the Greek translation of the book of Revelation, not the Judeo-Christian translation. So I had made a prediction earlier in the year that within 40 days after the eclipse, which was Corona, it's when Apollo Pharmakia became Apollo Helios.
Yeah.
When the Corona was seen in the sky, a crown was given to him. That was the transition from the first seal, which was the attack of Apollo Pharmakia on the human family using poisonous needles. And the arrows of Apollo were specifically designed in the ancient Greek world to spread disease. What we have with the first seal was the servants of the Hippocratic Oath. This is the doctors. This is the medical field. The servants of the Hippocratic Oath would literally betray the human family. This is what the first seal, this is how the Greek reads the first horseman to be. It is Apollo, the white horse, the white centaur. Chiron was the centaur that taught Apollo medicine. Apollo's wife was Coronis. They had a son named Coronis, but it was spelled with a C, not a Corona, spelled with a C. She was spelled with a K. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. His arrows were toxins, very similar to toxin. The servants of the Hippocratic Oath are doctors, and the Hippocratic Oath begins, I swear by Apollo, not by God, not by anything that, I swear by Apollo that I will do these things. That's how the Hippocratic Oath starts. The first seal, the Greek interpretation of the first seal was dead on. So the Greek interpretation of the second seal is to using small arms, not major warfare, using small arms, which could be drone warfare, which is terrifying, and knives and pistols, small arms. I'm not talking about tanks and APCs and all. I'm talking in the aircraft carriers. I'm talking about small arm warfare. These will be designed to take peace from the earth. This is terrorism.
Yeah.
This is what I've predicted for 2024. Half of that prediction's already become true because knife attacks in 2024 have ramped up more than any other year in recorded world history. Every country in Europe, Australia, New Zealand as well, and the United States, every state is reporting an upsurge in knife attacks. Why? Because the past 5 years, the WEF and all the globalists have been flooding all these European descended countries with migrants.
Yeah.
Because they don't have firearms, their choice of weapon is a knife. So these seals are unfolding according to the Greek Olympiad calendar every 4 years. This is an Olympiad year. It's also a year of a presidential election. It's also a year of the Olympics. So 1972, we cannot ignore that the only terroristic attack in the entire history of the Olympics was in 1972. And it was 11 Israelis that got machine gunned by Arabs. This happened in 1972. Therefore, I'm going to claim right now that you can expect a similar event at the Paris Olympics this year. But this isn't an original prediction because I said that 2 years ago. I'm still sticking to my guns. But I'm going to add to that because of so many other events. In 1972, there were bombings all over London, the UK. The IRA was bombing coffee shops. The IRA was bombing all kinds of places. But when it comes to this isometric projection analysis, it doesn't have to be Irish people doing it anymore. It can be somebody else. The phenomenon is explosions, terror, taking peace from the earth. That's what terrorists do. This time, it's not going to be the IRA. This time, it's going to be the fifth column migrants that have been deliberately put into people's countries to do just this. This isn't a takeover. All these foreigners and migrants that have been put in the United States, that have been put in Germany and France and the UK, this is all by design. It's not to invade and take over. It's to create so much discord, to collapse infrastructure, to interrupt commerce and trade. It is specifically designed to enrage the Caucasian world. This is what it's designed to do. The Western world is going to be enraged because this is all going to fall into play with what's known as the Mazzini Plan. Because from the beginning, the Mazzini Plan was to create so much discord and chaos to get the Christianized Western world to formally declare war against Islam, invade the Middle East, set up their bases throughout the entire Middle East, which fulfills the goal of surrounding Israel with protection. That's what it's all about. It's all about. Every bit of it.
Wow.
So,
amazing.
Oh, I told you. I told you, man. You already know in the past. Either the Archaix family, which includes you by extension, or we're gonna ride, we're gonna soar high, we're gonna start a great movement of spiritual people, we're gonna change the dynamics of our own reality, we're gonna skate right through the Phoenix phenomenon, we're going to be among those who are counted among the monument of man, and then some of us will even live to be a part of the final 144,000 seers and prophets who are at the very end of the timeline, who are testifying to everybody else as to what this world is about, why you're about to go through the Great Tribulation, and why you're about to see me vanish and disappear. That's the last 144,000. There's a lot of people exiting the construct. 144,000 are just those special youngsters alive today who are going to grow up in the next 25 years into a totally different world post-Phoenix.
Wow.
They're going to be protected by the divine in order to give all this information out to the lost, so they can take that information and build something so that they might have a chance on the next sim cycle. This is the whole Archaix paradigm in a nutshell. And either all that's going to happen, or somebody else is going to spearhead that, after I'm removed from the equation. Because I'm not necessary, Joel. You're not necessary. The spark of awakening has already been released, and there's no killing it. There's no killing it. It's over.
I love it, dude. I agree, man. That's so powerful. I'm so thankful that you're explaining it so well. It's shamans say that they say a similar kind of dynamic, that forces rise to meet each other, and these events that play out are necessary in order for us to discover what we are. And so we don't have to be at odds with it. We just get to ride it. And there's a way of taking care of yourself within it that makes it so that you are protected, guided. You're told when to leave the house, when to stay home, when to get in your car, which alley to walk down. Your field becomes alert, and you're no longer in fear because you trust that you're always being shown. And that just liberates this. When a person is fearless on this level, then it just opens the door for being of service, and more people are called to purpose and coming out of materialism. People are more materialistic than they realize, and once they realize that there's other things to let go of, then they start to really become kind of that armor of God becomes possible, when you're no longer trying to convince others of how cool you are or trying to be seen in a certain light. So people like us get to break free of what shamans call the mirror of self-reflection, right? Because if you're constantly gauging how people perceive you, you're not free to go on your own journey of discovery and meet the creator on your own.
I agree 100%. So with 1972, we're going to see versions of 1972 reflected in 2024. It's just like even the eclipses. Remember, I showed a video where the eclipses of the past perfectly line up isometrically. I mean, the construct is so mathematically perfect that even something so like a pseudo natural phenomenon, an eclipse, has a perfect palindrome sequencing to it. It's inexplicable outside the context that we are in a construct, not a real reality. So 1972 had terrorists hijacking commercial jets. 1972 had Palestinians. What was that? Was that Germany? Is that a German airlines? Wow. What is it called? Lufthansa. somebody in the comment section will know. Lufthansa, I think is how you say it. But Bloody Friday went down in history.
Yep.
So many people died from the bombs in Ireland, Belfast. Then it was followed by Bloody Sunday. More bombs going off, this time in London. So, or somewhere in that area. It might have been Ireland again. But other bombs went off in military places. The IRA didn't tell you. They weren't playing. The IRA was doing all that. So, but also in the UK, what was experienced. Remember, 2024 is about forced infrastructure collapse. It's not natural. It's forced. Right. And it's not permanent. It's temporary because it's designed to take peace from the earth, and it's designed to piss off the people of the UK to the point that they do something.
Yeah.
Same thing in the United States. In 1972, the UK hit an all-time low of unemployment. Half of the nation did not have a job. It all happened suddenly in 1972. So that's the result of infrastructure collapse.
Right.
So what else we have? 1972. Oh, also the British lost all their interest in Uganda, and other African nations were pushing the Brits out because Britain, North Africa and Western Benin and all that was all under British control. A few little holdouts under French control. But Uganda stood it up and kicked all the Brits out and took all their shit, all their military bases, anything, all their cars, all their airplanes, everything left behind, man. They just took it. So this 2024, you're going to see something else like that concerning the UK. It's going to be a loss of face and a loss of value somewhere else where the UK has holdings.
Wow.
So this this is all going to happen fast. We got another major event, another super major event in 1972 is the Watergate scandal.
Yep.
Five Republicans were caught putting listening devices in the Democratic National Convention offices. Yep. So we can see something similar happening today. And it doesn't even matter, Joel, if it's real. It doesn't even matter if it's real because most of the shit on the news isn't real anyway. What matters is human perception.
Yeah.
If the news reports that Biden administrators got caught doing something and they use that as a pretext to remove Biden from office right before the election so they can put another puppet in there and then mess off the election, all that's viable. That would be a fulfillment of the projection from 1972 of Watergate.
Totally.
Remember, I do have a prediction. It still stands.
Yeah.
I predicted that Biden would not survive his term. My prediction is almost 4 years old. I still have that original video on my channel that Biden is not going to survive his. And I don't mean he's going to die. He's not going to survive his presidency. He's not going to make the whole 4 years. This was my. Now I'm going to tell you too, and I'm going to have a lot of agreement with people in the comment section. Although mainstream people, the living dead, the people that are just suffering from vacuity, they're going to disagree.
Yeah.
But I don't even believe Biden's in office anymore. I don't believe Biden's been in office for a long time. He's a puppet. His handler. It's just like Kissinger.
Yeah.
Kissinger was always known as the right-hand man to the president, Secretary of State. He's this great hero and all that. And the American people were fooled by that because they didn't realize how entrenched the Israelis were in our politics. But every president that Henry Kissinger served wasn't ruling the country. Henry Kissinger was.
Sure.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. It's all crazy. So, so we have a major biological attack put out by an international authority, the World Health Organization, in 1972, attacked the human family, just like the first SEAL. But in 1972, they attacked the human family with a vaccine in 1972. That vaccine was issued to hundreds of thousands of people all throughout Africa. within months of the issuing of that vaccine, right there in Africa was born HIV and AIDS. And this was done by the World Health Organization. It's all very well documented. This was 1972. So in 2024, you can expect another push like 2020. But again, it's going to be voluntary.
Mm.
So
Yeah, you got bird flu up for that one, maybe.
So also, you have to take into consideration that my prediction from a year ago was that in 2024 there's going to start being massive disclosure about how illegal the whole 2020 COVID vax program was, and we're already seeing the disclosures. Yeah. The disclosure is so legitimate now that even insurance companies have publicized that they're not even honoring insurance claims for people who are vax injured. Why? The insurance paperwork is saying that it's because it was experimental and you were warned.
Yeah.
Talk about bait and switch.
Yeah, man.
Whew. Talk about bait and switch. So, we do have a really interesting one. Okay, two things to look out for this year. 1972, the United States pulled out of Vietnam. The final troops in Vietnam were pulled out in 1972. Yeah. 1973, the only troops that were left behind were non-combative personnel, and they were there as advisors for the South Vietnam. But all the fighting combat troops, all the artillery, all the ships, all the armament, everything was pulled out in 1972. Sure. So, is the United States going to initiate something in Asia? And will 2024 be the first year U.S. troops land in a new theater of operation? I'm just asking the question because according to 1970, it can be either way. It can either be the United States military is going to pull out of an area, but we're not in a war right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not in a war. So is this actually the beginning of sending U.S. troops somewhere later this year? This is open-ended. We'll see. Yep. Now, the other thing of interest is that we're waiting for some type of weird, unusual sky phenomena this year that mirrors what happened in 1972. In 1972, starting over Ohio and then going over the rest of the western United States, hanging in the air for a very long period of time, was a fireball. Something appeared in the sky, it was flaming, and then it moved very slowly across the sky. It was visible to multiple states of the United States for 45 minutes. Wow. No meteorite, no asteroid, comet, none of that BS can explain what happened in 1972. Whatever it was huge. And it just hung in the sky, moving slowly to where several states could see it. So this is very well documented. Now, when you look at the establishment literature, like encyclopedia, if you go on the internet, they're always going to call it a fireball or a meteorite. But no meteorites behave like that.
Right.
This is just a scientific explanation. The people, the eyewitness accounts, they can't explain it. It was literally a ball on fire that was moving slowly across the sky for 45 minutes, seen over all of North America. 1972.
Amazing.
It also passed over Alberta, Canada. So yeah, Joel. I just had some details to add, but I don't have much in the way of predictions to add to what I already didn't predict last year.
Totally.
So this is the state we're at, and I don't want to be forced, like I've told my own community, I don't want to be forced to do predictions videos because then you're asking me to introduce creative license. You're asking me to invent particulars where they don't particularly exist. I don't want to do that. So I went ahead and did the predictions video because of the peer pressure. Yeah. And because it's basically a reminder that nothing has changed. These were the predictions from last year. They still stand today.
That's amazing, dude. Thank you for sharing it. It's helpful to understand kind of what we're heading into, and just to be more aware and alert to what's possible from it. Yeah, it's the fact that you can pull from the past and then kind of get a glimpse of the future. It's similar to what Toltecs do. What they call it dark dreaming, where you get visions, and it's kind of, I think, what Nostradamus and people like that were experiencing. Their informed field made it possible for them, and so deja vu is a real thing, where you've dreamt already or had a vision of a moment, and then you're inside of it and you're like, whoa, I've been here before. So I think that not only is what you've discovered real, but I believe we're in a memory right now, that we couldn't possibly be experiencing things as they're happening, where it had to be slowed down and played out in a linear way in which we could interpret it, because it would be like chaos. Like when somebody becomes schizophrenic, they no longer have the construct to lean on. They are now inside of the intensity of eternity and just too much input and no capacity to let it go. And they just get, so these are really like stepping stones to becoming really conscious of how incredible this system is. And the more we can have like these, like the Mandela effect and the resets, and understand what's going on, then we're just that much more in trust and less afraid when events start to play out. And I do agree that, like the Anarchapulco guy is saying, get the fuck out of America. This is it. I warned you about this. I warned you about that. It's time. The immigrant thing's about to pop off. And and so people are more fearful of it and think that you need to get into these third world countries. I don't agree. I'm not being told to leave the U.S. I don't want to.
Would you like a scenario? Would you like a scenario? I don't do this often because I'm not a fear monger. I don't really. I want to promote the truth as best as I can without introducing unnecessary, negativity. But since we're talking about this, I will tell you really succinctly what I'm expecting.
Cool.
All right, because all these, you're right. Are you talking about Jeff in Anarchapulco? Yeah. Okay, you're right. A lot of people are getting intel about something major about to happen. There's no doubt. But the problem is the interpretation of those warnings. Yeah. All right. Not everything is executed to finality. Not everything is always very bad. Right. And what I mean is in order to get their roles, the second seal is not about conquering. The second seal, that was the first seal, about conquering and to conquer. That's what it said. The second seal is about taking peace from the earth because it's a part of an agenda. Yeah. So there's no way that these migrant sleeper cells in any country can actually ever take over France, Germany, the UK, Wales, Cornwall, Ireland, the United States, Canada. They all have these migrant sleeper cells. They're not there to invade or take over. Yeah. They're there to attack infrastructure. They have weapons caches in different places. They've already been schooled and trained on what to do to bring the power grids down. What do they need to do to affect large areas? There's not enough of them to affect the all. So they're going to cherry pick what they do. Yeah. I can envision right now that different intersections that are known at 4 p.m. throughout the United States to be absolutely congested with traffic. Those are the perfect ones to absolutely set off a bomb at, lock down the traffic, and then go in there and machine gun people that are in their cars. It's terrible. It's a terrible picture. It sucks, but these are the things that taking peace from the earth entails. A coffee shop. Listen, Americans aren't used to that shit that goes on in other countries, especially like Israel and stuff. We're not used to that. So if Starbucks just blows up, killing 20 people inside and damaging vehicles and cars, we're not used to that here. It's going to take peace. And then when people realize, damn, we ain't had water in 2 weeks, the power's been out. It's August 23rd, and the power's out. We're sweating our asses off. The water's been shut out. All of us that thought we were clever by getting generators that run off natural gas never took it into consideration that the natural gas wells use pumps that are provided by the electrical grid. So we're not even getting that. So FEMA and the Department of Defense have already run these little pilot tests and all that, and they know that within 72 hours of total systemic infrastructure collapse, when people aren't even receiving news, they don't know what's going on. Listen, the stores will be empty, and there will be bodies in the parking lots of H-E-B, Kroger, and Tom Thumb, and Dollar General. People don't realize how fast.
Yeah.
And it's because of panic.
Totally.
It's because of panic. And because every population will always have a minority who will exploit the fact that law enforcement is not coming. When it becomes realized within 72 to 96 hours that no police and EMTs and fire engines are going to come to your rescue, when that starts dawning on the population, that's when roving bands of gangsters with assault rifles and knives are going to start kickdooring house to house to house and taking your pantries and your food, rape, pillage, and plunder.
Okay.
People don't realize how fast this shit will go down, but equally fast when it's all over, how fast it comes back online. You understand? The picture I'm painting is a event that is systemic. Probably going to kick off during the Olympics. It's a systemic event that is designed to be like a domino effect, creating so discord and all that. So mainstream media's engine of disinformation, as the power comes back on, you can tune into your radios and television sets, and they're telling you what happened. You've been attacked by Muslims. You've been attacked by Hezbollah. You've been attacked by Al-Qaeda. You've been attacked. We have new intel now that it was this Muslim group. Yeah, New York City went offline. We now have a death toll, 55,000 bodies. It was these mosques that were involved. This is what it's to anger. It is to start a massive war between Christianity and Islam, with Israel as the benefactor.
Wow, brother. Damn.
What it is.
That's what my elder told me, that the berserkers, that when the credit cards stop working and everything shuts down, it just quickly, even cannibalism starts to become part of the storyline. And, so it falls in line with that. But I'm glad that you are pointing out the fact that it doesn't just destroy everything forever, right? It's
going to be very temporary. 3 and 4 weeks later, power's on, infrastructure's back, the necessary deals. They just need to take peace from the earth and then channel the fear into something constructive, like sending your sons and daughter to the Middle East.
And the draft, they're talking about bringing the draft back just in time for all this, and
every bit of it's by design, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Now, having said all that, you have to allow me to say something else.
Yeah.
Every single person listening to my voice can tap into the individualized, personalized field, understand how you are moored to source, and can be immune from all that. You can be an absolute pillar of peace amidst a storm of chaos, be untouched by it all. That's who we are. We have a great ability to participate in the programming. If you remember, it's been my message from the beginning of my channel. We live in two different distinct realities at the exact same time. And you can phase in and out of either one of them, but you can never be in both. One of them is the collective. And we're often defaulting back into that because we want to interact with the human family. We want to do all that. So we're in the collective. We're out there doing things. But you can also phase out of it into the highly personal and extend that field of protection to the ones you love, and those who are in your immediate environment. That's who we are. It's called the Aegis. The Aegis it's a spiritual ability to emanate your own source power. It's unlimited power, and it comes from somewhere else. It comes from our attachment to the oversoul. It doesn't come from the construct. But that you can draw. I say it all the time. You can draw from yourself more than you contain. And if someone truly understands that, they will understand that the aegis is something that you don't need your loved one to believe what you do in order for them to be protected. You don't even need your sons and daughters to believe what you do. What you need to do is believe that you have that unlimited, basically, love from source that will come into you and provide an agent of protection for those that you are mentally trying to enter that field. And there is no distance in time space. It doesn't matter if you're in New Hampshire and your daughter is in Colorado, and you know that there's terrible things going on in Colorado, because in New Hampshire, if you are moored to source and thinking about the protection of your daughter, then source is going to honor that.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
Thank you, man, for making that so clear. And I've experienced this personally. I've had so many times where if I hadn't acted, I wouldn't be here because I was informed. You know, a lot of near-death experiences with vehicles and semis and situations where I'm in a spot. There's no reason for me to do what I'm doing, but all of a sudden I'm driving off the road and getting into a ditch as a semi tries to take a turn and occupies my lane and would have killed me and my family. Everyone's looking at me. Why are you driving into a ditch? There's no reason to. But my informed field informed me ahead of time, and I just did it because I trust in it, because I've got to know it. And so I encourage people to just, the more you trust your intuition, the more it comes online. Shamans say the more you trust your personal power, they say it doesn't matter how much personal power you've gained, it's how much you trust it.
I agree.
A little 8-year-old kid could make all the difference in the world just by putting their hand up to a police officer that's about to cross the line. Or personal power is presented in unique moments of grandeur where people really step into their power and speak to the collective. Sometimes it can change the outcome for many. Yeah, it's a trip.
I agree. It's just, I don't know. There's only so many ways that you can take a message and convey it. And I've got so many videos. I don't really talk about these things. Well, I tell you what it is, Joel. You bring this out of me, because there is a strong dynamic between the two of us. It's evident in all the videos we do together. And so I don't really get real, spiritual and all that unless I'm set out to do a spiritual video. But I just wish people would understand that attachment to source better, and they would understand. They understand that they quell that. They literally stamp out the power of the connection to source when they draw from the construct itself the things that they think they need to protect themselves from the construct. It's the worst thing to do in the world. If you're worried about construct phenomena, which is danger, being mugged, being hungry, being thirsty. If you're worried about the things that happen in the construct, but you borrow from the construct itself in order to prepare or fight those things, then you're using construct energy, which is negative default programming, and you're acquiring more negative default programming in order to neutralize it, and it doesn't quite work that way. But by doing that, you literally detach yourself from that empowerment. Because when you're focused on source as being everything that you need inside the construct, that focus literally creates the programming that the construct will provide everything you need.
So amazing, dude. It's what a strange situation to find ourselves in, and to be learning about how to free ourselves from it, and be able to offer different ways of talking about what it really is, so that it can resonate enough for people to do the same. I really believe in the 100th monkey thing, that it's inventions aren't I have a friend who's an inventor, and he's always a little step behind somebody else in a different part of the world. They're getting the same information at the same time. It's all about carburetors, and they're just in this psychic battle from across the world, and he's always outmaneuvered by this guy by a day. They're just racing to try to change the carburetor in the way that would work for these jet skis and these snowmobiles. And anyways, it's just cool to watch how the informed field and how all these different things, even in the truth community, it's people start talking about different things, and it starts to just bubble up. you know. And so we're in a time of great exposure. A lot of, and you're part of that, is exposing the deceivers and the people that have been getting away with making shit up and pretending that they're these really advanced, evolved spiritual people, you know, that have had these encounters with all these aliens and all that stuff. It's just so, you know, and I'm not saying there's not other beings from other worlds. Shamans are aware that there's other things going on, like the Yeti walk in and out of this world, and they don't, you'd never be able to see them physically because they're multidimensional creatures. Right. But if you're out in the wilderness at night on mushrooms and alone, and you start hearing branches snapping, you might want to get down on the ground and cover your stomach, because there's real things out there, if you're not prepared for, that can scare the shit out of you. They can't actually hurt you, but they can make you hurt yourself. And I've witnessed it. I've seen a lot of intense shit in these interdimensional layers. So we are not alone, but that doesn't mean that all this alien bullshit is, you know, legit. It's just obviously what you've done to expose the Sitchin thing. And people are still, they're still buying, you know, it's going to take time for people to come out of those stories. So we're fortunate.
Here's an illustration for you. All right. Let's just assume, arguendo, that Jesus was absolutely real. All right.
Sure.
I'm very impressed with the parables. You know I am. The red letter editions, what Jesus taught and all that. I'm just not impressed with the story because I don't need it. I don't need all that story. I don't need all these miracles. I don't need all that. The spirit doesn't need all this materialism in order to understand and gain value from something that is spiritual. I don't need it. But the red letter parts, the pure gold, Jesus' words, hey, I live by them. I love what I hear. And I'm always telling these things on Archaix. But let's assume that he was really real. And this wasn't a Greek stage play based off all the greatest text known at the time, 2,000 years ago, a soup made of all the best ingredients. Let's just assume Jesus was real. Okay. If we assume that Jesus was absolutely real, and we also know that he had our best interest in mind, and he was going to tell us all these things that are real as opposed to those things that are fake, I'm going to tell you right now, Jesus never told us anything about extraterrestrials. He never said a thing about aliens, never said a thing about capital ships, drop ships. He never said a thing about that, but he did warn us about demons.
Yeah. Exactly. Love it.
Yeah, that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I've had speaking of interdimensional experiences, I've had friends who have had experiences where they were paralyzed and something was attacking them. Mm-hmm. And they experienced this. They were sober, you know, people were unbalanced, but they were very focused on their Christian path. And then something presented that challenged that faith. And they called the Spirit of Jesus in and were given the support they needed to come out of that paralyzation and for that attack to end, right? And so then they become believers forever, so completely, because they allowed themselves to invite this support in. And I believe support exists of all kinds. I believe the Native Americans have all kinds of powerful people who you could invite in a moment, who are from our past, who are conscious enough to come in and lend support because they're not dead. They found another layer, and they're you know, there's support of all kinds. There's all kinds of helpers. And so whether Jesus existed or not, when a person opens themselves up in that way in order to receive support and is in such a state that they really need it, these incredible healings and transformations do occur. So we don't know what we're, you know, but a lot of people are also tapping into help, or they invite a sentient helper to help them. And they might be very much have invited a demonic spirit in to their reality that is now informing them. And I see this with ayahuasca too. People are they're opening themselves up, and something presents and says, "Can I enter you?" And they say yes, because it's such a psychedelic experience for them. And then they are no longer just themselves. There's something else involved in their field. And you can tell when you offer them a chance to get rid of it, they don't want to get rid of it. So there's all kinds of strange dynamics with opening ourselves up in this realm. And so I'm fascinated about the idea of these different people who may or may have not walked the earth. But I assume that Jesus, it's too perfect of a story, and that it's a religious program that was designed to make sure that you could bring in all these beautiful concepts and then hook people with them so that they would stay within a religious paradigm and not become aware of how powerful they are, always handing their power, putting Jesus above them, putting things above them. To me, worship is not, we should honor each person, but not ever put anyone above or below us. And that's where the Toltecs find their freedom, is that they relate more to people, schizophrenic people on the street who are seeing all these other different things than they do to your average person. So they find solace hanging out with the crazy and the wild and the fearless, and the, you know, even people that are possessed make more sense to them than the people who are just going to their 9 to 5 and are asleep at the wheel. So we live in an interesting realm for sure.
There's no doubt about that. You mentioned the you mentioned the paranormal events in the forests and the woods and all that. Okay, well, the greatest paranormal event of all time, experienced all over the world, involving thick woods and wilderness, is no doubt Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't matter if you call him the Snow Walker,
Yep.
you call him the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti, the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Buki Mambi, or so he's got a weird name in Africa, Bukubi Mambi or something. Well, no, it doesn't even matter. He's got another name in they call him Yowies in Australia, New Zealand. So listen, Bigfoot is the hide and seek champion.
Yeah.
Now, you think I'm making fun of Bigfoot? I'm not.
No, I know.
I've read several. I have many books. I still haven't done a video on it, but I'm going to. But I have many classic books from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s about Bigfoot and sightings and all that. Now, we're not dealing with a biological entity.
Right.
We are dealing with something that is transdimensional, and yet wherever it is from, it's another world just like this. And the reason I can make that assertion is because the physical evidence he leaves behind in hair, footprints, deep impressions, and scent that animals can chase. People have smelled the odor.
Yes.
Bigfoots have been seen everywhere on every continent except Antarctica. But they've been seen everywhere. They've been so well documented, and yet the very fact that even hunting dogs can't chase one down is because we're dealing with something that is physical while it's here, and yet it knows how to phase out of our holography and back to where it's from. And wherever it's from must be as pseudo-physical as well for it to have a scent, for it to have weight to press into the soil. Yeah, I'm on board. This is a very interesting phenomenon, but also Bigfoots appear to us as, 6.5 to 8 foot tall, huge, 600-pound, shaggy, hairy entities. However, in almost every incident, they've always acted with intelligence, and they've acted with peace. You don't have stories of Bigfoots attacking people, kidnapping people. You don't have that. You have them almost as if they're like watchers, terrestrial guardians. They're there for a reason that you don't know just how. This is the suspicion of some Bigfoot researchers. Yeah, I'm going to end up doing a video about it, but the suspicion is that it's almost as if these appearances of Bigfoot, the people who actually observe Bigfoot don't even have a clue about what was really there and drew the Bigfoot's attention, and the Bigfoot's actually acting as a guardian and a ward.
Yes, beautiful, man.
So this is all.
Yeah, Native Americans very much are involved in these relationships with these beings. A lot of them even have communication with these beings because they've learned to accept, support, and they come in dream time and help them. My elder would get pulled out of this world and his body would fall to the ground, and he would get pulled over to their world sometimes because they became allies. And so Native Americans are strange, almost like possessed in a way. They're open, and some would call them an abomination because they've let themselves let things have access to them, right? And exorcisms are real. But when you do an exorcist, you're actually taking that energy on yourself in the moment from the person, and you have to be so pure and clear and clean in order to then get it out of you. You don't just remove it from them. It has to come through you in order for it to be effective, because you have the capacity and the intention. But what you're talking about, this transdimensional, this is not just the Yeti. This is what Native Americans were capable, and other not just natives, but we are all capable of shapeshifting. There are brujos and brujas that will scare the shit out of you in Mexico that are no joke. You wouldn't be able to spend 30 seconds in the presence of these people, because they're terrifyingly powerful sorcerers, and they're not in it for this. They're not here for, they've become hooked to different things that have a hold of them, right? So the reason we can't shapeshift now is because there's a program that's controlling our perception and keeping us perceiving the world as a limited experience. But the old natives knew how to do the appropriate ceremonies to break free of the hypnosis and travel into these other layers. And the Yeti became their friends, because it's a very important thing to be able to handle these different, to be able to support each other. And I would even argue that maybe this Enki and Lil story had something to do with these other beings. And there is some genetic changes that have occurred with the Anuna over time because of these relationships that we just aren't fully conscious of. So there might be more dimensions to what Sitchin, maybe, even though Sitchin was trying to mislead us, what got unearthed into the zeitgeist is information about these DNA altering. So I wonder too if it's more interdimensional than alien, that there is some credibility to the DNA stuff, or to just how we came to the missing link, or how we became who we are. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe the genetic stuff was done inside the construct.
Okay.
It is my. I'm of the opinion of researchers like Ivar Zapp, who after going through so much data on hominids and humans and evolution, uniformitarianism, and then everything that argued against it, he was baffled. And about 40 years ago, he had concluded that it almost makes sense that whole human families just appeared ex nihilo. And after a period of 2 or 3 minutes, they just kind of adjusted, and their programmed memories took over, and they just started going, because there's zero archaeological evidence of any development, where they came from. It's almost as if their avatars were programmed in, and then souls filled them up, and then they went on their routines. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, they actually believed that they had been developing for thousands of years, and they had this long history. So this was Ivar Zapp and another researcher who concluded this based off the data, that it didn't make sense. And I'm of the mind that all genetic experimentation has been done outside the construct, as inside the construct, our overseers, which are human just like us, are experimenting with different biospheres. And I believe that DNA is far more ancient than the human family. Human avatars are just another expression of DNA coding. But if we were in a different construct, if we were vibrating on a totally different frequency, our avatars would reflect that. If we were under a higher atmospheric pressure, if we were in a world that was extremely humid all the time, but the oxygen was 100 times more, if the world was very, very warm, let's say the world was 120 degrees all day long, we are going to be uncomfortable. But DNA is fantastic, because at the instant of conception, all this environmental stimuli will create the necessary coding in our offspring, and our children will grow up in a world that they're very comfortable in. So this is just my take.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
But I just believe that DNA is fantastically ancient. It's probably older than this construct itself. Amazing. But I believe that we are on the outside of the construct, and I believe that we are very spiritual beings on the outside, and yet we still have avatars. We still have avatars on the outside, and that you already know my position on the eternal. The creation never stops. It's not a singularity, and if the creation never stops, it's always ongoing. And if it's always ongoing, it's always going to have a need for new participants and new souls come into the construct. And they got to start at a base level, and through these construct worlds, they ascend. And we've probably already ascended through many constructs.
Yeah.
It's a process.
the initiation and graduation, and and then like choosing to come back in for a mission like you're on, like it's, there's so much freedom in that, right? Because when you're not afraid to die, that because of having had experiences where it was so close already, you become familiar with death. And it's actually a really cool thing to be conscious of the impermanence of the avatar.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause you really value the little things and your relationships and, the people that you connect to, but you're also at peace, and that's what makes, the real, I think, the authenticity come through around your message. So
yeah, hey, I'm looking at the comment section. King Bean Flicker, right here. Oh, I'm gonna show this. King Bean Flicker. I've never seen this name before, but he says, "What are they hiding in Antarctica?" I got to tell you a funny story real quick. Yeah. So, in one of the comment sections, somebody, because they didn't like the fact that I was criticizing Billy Carson, somebody in one of the comment sections, I believe it was on Twitter, said, Jason, you ain't never been to Egypt. Billy Carson's been to Egypt 10 times. He gives tours of Egypt. You ain't qualified to talk about Egypt because I've never been to Egypt. What do you know about the Great Pyramid? You've never been in there. So it was in response to my Sir Flinders Petrie's measurements, the scientific measurement of the Great Pyramid. So his argument was that I'm not qualified to discourse about the things I've researched about the Great Pyramid because I've never been to Egypt. But his hero, Billy Carson, has been to Egypt. So I answered in the comment section. I says, by that logic alone, Billy Carson could shut the hell up about Antarctica. He's never been there, but he's doing a bunch of videos about it.
Yeah.
I got blocked.
Yeah.
I got blocked.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Antarctica.
It's a clown world, man. It's a clown world.
It really is. It's a perfect training ground, perfect obstacle course. The trolls, all the different attacks. It's preparing us, I think. Shamans say that you want to actually be able to handle tyrants and stuff, like be able to handle, like for you, a prison guard fucking trying to get to you, right? And your capacity to not let things get to you will actually determine how your afterlife is. If you're easily offended by people and things, when you die, you're going to have a hard time encountering the predatory nature of what's outside of this construct as well. It's a much fiercer, faster, the abyss is a real thing in which spiritual warfare and all these different dynamics that shamans get caught in. But the way they prepare themselves is by going and trying to find a tyrant to work for and try to find somebody that can get under their skin and see how they can hold their center and or turn it on them and expose their ego and make them become expose them by kind of like declothing them, like exposing their ego in front of everybody. And that's what makes a tyrant rage, right? And then they really come out of their center. So it's cool what you're doing. You're playing with that on the internet. You're poking, right? And you're exposing and forcing more and more people to put these people in a position where they either come clean or they accumulate so many lies that they will literally, it will destroy them.
Yeah, it's you know what? It didn't start that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It didn't start that way. I used to mind my own business on YouTube. I used to, you know what? And then I reach out to somebody and tell them, hey, I'd like to.
Yeah.
I know Billy Carson was one of the first I reached out to. And it was on Facebook. And I was really thinking that my information was going to be receptive because I had all these charts drawn up and I was showing all these sources on how to accurately interpret the Shar and how we can take this whole ridiculous hundreds of thousands of years, which is not true, and condense it to just a few centuries of history, of the Anunnaki history, which now puts it into perspective. It's like the great American empire that existed in the 3rd millennium BC. That's what Anunnaki history is. That's what it is when you look at it through a proper historical lens. But Zechariah Sitchin messed everybody up and got everybody thinking it's hundreds of thousands of years and that these god kings ruled on the world and they sat on a throne for 48,000 years. It's so comical and ridiculous. But when Billy Carson was coming up after he got out of jail, he was looking for a way to make a living, and I respect that.
Sure.
He's looking just like Jay Dreamers when he got out of Colorado Penitentiary. He's looking for a way to make a living.
Yeah.
So what do they do? They get on Facebook first and they start to build a community. And when they're building their community, they cross over into YouTube, and you guys know the rest of the story. But when Billy Carson was doing that, I was reaching out to him on YouTube. On Facebook. And on Facebook, I was sending my data and all that. And all his mods, he had 20-something channels on the Anunnaki. They blocked me off, every single one of them. They are the reason why I started Archaix on Facebook. So
there you go. See.
So anyway, I couldn't get any information. It was ridiculous. It was terrible. So,
yeah, man.
That's how it started, though. Just trying to educate people. Hey, man, this is the right information. This is going on. And then I wasn't expecting the level of toxicity the wall of toxicity I hit. And it wasn't Billy Carson personally. It was his people.
Right.
It was like, man, they went straight to the personal attacks, I was like, wow, this is crazy. You guys can't see the logic here? I mean, I'm not the one making it up. Read these. Look, this is 2,000 years ago. This is what it says from 2,000 years ago about the Shar being a day. Yeah. This is what the Greeks said about the Shar. So then it gets really stupid when you find out that Zechariah Sitchin, who brought this to the public's attention, his only source in all the Earth Chronicles for the Shar being a year is the Babylonian Greek historian Berosus. Well, I'm a chronologist, and I automatically know that cuneiform was already out of use by 1,000 years before Berosus was born.
Right.
So you're going to take as an authority a man who didn't even know how to interpret Sumerian and had to go by the Babylonian cuneiform in order to interpret what was happening. You're going to take. It's just like me. It's just like me trying to write an authoritative version of the Viking invasion of Ireland and the founding of the city of Dublin today, when there's no historical records between when the Vikings did it and today. But I'm going to pop up on the world scene and write a full authoritative version of 1,000 years later.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Well, people just don't think anymore. They all have opinions, but they just don't think anymore.
So crazy, man. Yeah, good. Thank you for continuing to point it out. But I think as we watch these people, they're big. These have such a big following, and they're not going to go down easily. They're not going to, at this point, come around and admit anything, right? So it's just going to get wild to watch. There's a lot of exposure and different ways in which people are going to have to come to terms with how much they've been lied to. Even some, it's going to spill into the normie world too. Like, people are going to not know. This is what my elder said, that the perception of reality will become unclear. People won't know what's going on. And in that anxiety, there's going to be an increased need and desire for pharmaceuticals to make it go away. And it's going to not work. It's not going to work anymore because that medicine is just causing so much inflammation. The bodies are breaking down. The petrochemicals aren't going to be helpful as we become more. So there's going to be an opportunity for people to come out of these patterns of avoiding and kind of have an ego death and be willing to go in a different direction in order to just get clear and heal. So it's just kind of being open to that, watching the veil sort of come down, and how different people respond will be fascinating.
Yeah, it is. So, buddy, we done covered 2 hours. We got our predictions out the way.
Hell yeah.
We got some good spiritual material out of the way. We talked about the trolls a little bit. I think we covered our bases for the day, man.
Yeah, thanks for the talk, man. So good.
You can do me a favor. Tomorrow, I'm going live again.
Cool.
And I'm introducing a personal friend of mine, somebody I actually know, somebody I visit. I've been to their home. She lives in New Mexico.
Cool.
And Elisa Chastain, she's an author. I have her book on my shelf too. But I'm gonna have her on. I shared with my community one of her videos about some silver spoons that she had found from one of the Chicago World's Fairs.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna have her. We're gonna talk about different things. It's gonna be a different type of Archaix video. Awesome. And you are like the perfect person to also interview her on your channel too as well.
I'd love to. Let's do it.
I'm going to introduce you to. I'll have you guys exchange emails. But she's a great soul. She's a witch. She's a mystic. She's a mystic. She is absolutely not the type of person that I have on Archaix. So this is a huge pattern break. But
cool.
she's a golden soul for real.
Awesome. I look forward to meeting her and appreciate it, man. If you don't mind, I'll mention I'm doing a workshop in Montana August 31st and September 1st on Labor Day weekend. So just wanted to people know that we're out in this beautiful 5 acres on this land out here in the Bitterroot Mountains, and we're going to be doing the Castaneda material. We'll be covering that material over a 2-day period, and then my wife and I will be doing a 3rd day option for people, and then I'm going to take people into the mountains on the 4th and 5th day for some smaller groups. And I teach online groups online, and a lot of the people that are in my online groups are going to be at this workshop. So and then my website's finally up, joelschaefer.com, if anybody wants to check out what I offer. And
you got a lot of your links for Twitter, Instagram, a YouTube channel. It's all in the description box right now. But I didn't know about the website link. It wasn't on that list you gave me.
Yeah, sorry, it just happened. So joelschaefer.com, it's SCHAFER.com.
Okay.
And
cool.
I do free consults, 30-minute consults, if anybody wants to check out what mentoring with me is like. And really good to talk with you, Jason. Can't wait to do it again, and hope to meet in person one of these days again, and keep the conversations going, man.
Well, I'll say this. I don't have a single video on Castaneda, and nor do I have any real personal knowledge about Castaneda. So that might be our next video, because you can educate me live on Castaneda, because I really don't know much about it.
Yeah, man, it's my favorite subject, and I'd love to talk more about it. So let's do it.
All right. Until tomorrow, going live again. Joel Schaefer's. This is Perceiver. He's like Toltec Shaman. That's what I like to call him. And his links are in the description box, guys. Until then, much love.
All right, guys. Thank you.